morning, everybody. How are you? I am just hot. I'm sorry. I'm actually just I keep asking, could you just keep it down a bit? And he just can't. So it just feels like how the world is at the moment, and just a little bit hot and heavy. Okay, so I am popping on to do a reading for the new moon cycle that we're in. So we're just coming to the end of the last cycle, and if I can remember rightly, we had the strangler fig, we had greens pool, and then we had the Atlas Mountains. So just this feeling of kind of revisiting some of our coping mechanisms, really, and think our slightly addictive patterns, but really coping mechanisms that we've had for a long time that need to be cleaned up a bit. And I certainly have been, really mindful of that these last couple of weeks. Some of it, it's not easy. But when you're done with a particular pattern, or you've got a real awareness, you're done. And if you feel any guilt around it, then you've definitely made the right decision. Often guilt, particularly for women, is a really good signal that you are putting yourself first and what you need first. So I hope this last couple of weeks hasn't been too I kind of found it a bit, as I'm finding everything, just a bit sort of up and down, lots of lovely highs, and then a few kind of like, crash. Anyway, let's get going. So first of all, I want to talk about the referendum. Many of you know I came here to study with the Indigenous people. I have a master's in Indigenous studies, which means that it means I've sat in circles talking about hard things, learning about, the history of this country. Like every country has got its highs and its crashing lows. Hearing the truth and hearing it from an Indigenous perspective rather than from a colonized perspective. And one of the things that I was always taught was around community consultation. Don't be offering anything to anybody without asking them if that's what they need. Unsolicited advice, etc., etc. And listen, it's ingrained in our culture. We're always in other people's business, when we shouldn't be. And I find that particularly challenging as an empath, because I often can feel what people need and, can get myself into sticky water. I need to stay in my lane, and that is an ongoing work in progress. But anyway, going back to the community consultation, I decided, right, okay, from my experience, the Indigenous people have always wanted to be on the Constitution. I feel they should be on the Constitution. So I phoned a couple of my Indigenous friends, people that I studied with, and both were very much of the belief that this was a glimmer of hope, and that they felt it was a gate that not should be, but they were going to walk through. One had been at a big sort of yes rally up at the Tweed, and said that the majority of people that were there were sort of oldies who had been bussed in from casino and all around you. So if you're not from this area, but like 100 kilometers away, because they'd voted in the last referendum, which brought the Indigenous people of Australia out of being classed as flora and fauna and into being classed as Australian citizens. And they felt that this was of equal importance, and they wanted to honour and recognise them. And I feel like that's where I sit. I just want to honour and recognise and respect the Indigenous peoples. of this country, for how they've cared for this land, all the ritual and ceremony, the sacred sites, everything that they have done to care for country, and to, inform us on how we live in this country. I think, Australia is so unique. I was in New Zealand recently, and it's such a unique energy here in Australia. I just can't even really there's a rawness and authenticity that is just incredibly beautiful. And so that's how I feel about it. I'm just not going into the rabbit hole of debating governments, because, to be perfectly honest, I think the government has shown us in the last couple of years that there are many reasons why we shouldn't trust them. And of course, you're going to go, well, why would this be any different? What's the ill intent here, and all the rest of it? I'm not even looking at that. I'm not looking at that. I just feel like when I pulled some cards at the beginning of the week, when I pulled them, it was around reverence and respect and honoring and healing. And I do believe that just us having the conversation and people showing up, like at a grassroots level, talking about them wanting to honor and listen to what Indigenous people it's just like brought people together in conversations that I don't think it has in a way before. And I feel like there is a dignity being returned to the Indigenous people that was taken away from them. So I will be voting yes, but there will be people that may have gone down a rabbit hole and gone into government and all the rest of it. I just believe the law, whatever you call it, is held in the land, and it is always self-regulating, and stuff goes on here that I don't ever fully understand, and it's certainly not related to government. That's all I've got to say about it. So even though this is a government thing, I feel like it is like when I lived in Nigeria, my father always taught my sister and I to pay our respects to the Nigerian elders, the Nigerian people. And we would do something like we would go and greet them. And it's seen to just be a respectful, I respect you, you respect me. It's like a mutual reciprocity of respect. And I see you, it's the Namaste, the greet. And I feel like this is what this is. It's the Namaste of Australia. It's the I see you as equal value and importance in this country as the original peoples here. And thank you for giving me the same respect as a newbie. That's it. I don't feel it needs to be complicated beyond that. And I'm sure out in the Central Desert, they've got a word for a namaste. And it'll be our new thing. Maybe it's Didiri, Miriam Rose Ingamia's deep listening that goes both ways. Maybe it's the Didiri. It's the Didiri. Maybe there's another word. Anyway, that's what I feel about the referendum. I'm going to move on very swiftly because I know it's going on, and I feel like I want to just acknowledge it, is the horrendous situation that is escalating. I haven't looked at the news this morning in the Middle East. There are so many victims of these horrendous acts of killing. The only thing that I'm going to highlight is the couple, Israeli couple, who had their house broken into. I think, you know, the terrorists, Hamas, had broken into their compound, and they came into their house, and she said, "You are my brother. What are you doing?" And he was like, "I'm not your brother. I'm not your brother." And she said, "You are my brother. You are my brother. Come in here. Come and sit down. Have something to eat. You are my brother." And he held a rifle to her husband's head, and she just kept holding that belief in her body until he believed her. And she dissipated that anger and that hate and that desperation and that, you know, fight and flight and survival mode that was activated in him, and she grounded it. And I think they had something to eat there, and then they went off and they were spared. And I always remember Gandhi saying there was a point in some of the uprisings where he was refusing to eat, and you know, I can't remember, is it the Hindu and the Sikh? Oh God, I just don't want to get this wrong. Or is it the Muslim and the Hindu? Please don't be offended if you're watching this. I need to just check. I need to check. Because I just don't want to make a complete Gandhi. But anyway, the two different okay, two tribes. Oh, hang on. Oh, there's many tribes. Okay, well, anyway, there were two different tribes that were outside as he was starving. And, you know, let's just say it was Muslim and Hindi and Hindu. Oh my God, I'm just making such a mess of this. And he said, one of the guys came and said, the protesters came and said, "Please, please, please eat. What can we do to stop you?" And he said, "Oh, where are you from?" And he said, "Oh, I'm from wherever, and I'm a Hindu." He said, "Well, in that case, what I would like you to do is to find a Muslim child that does not have a parent, and I would like you to raise it as your own in his religion." And I slightly feel like that's where we're at here. That woman in Israel demonstrated that when you just get into this loggerheads, you know, it doesn't work. It shows it doesn't work. It just escalates and escalates. And when nobody knows who's telling the truth about what, all we know is there's just this horrendous situation, and it doesn't seem to be resolving. And another way needs to come forward. And this integration piece of humanizing the other instead of, you know, othering them and victimizing them, or you know, saying the most murderous and heinous things about them. I feel like it's very similar to when we get into that separation within our own psyche, where we cannot see, we are completely blindsided by our hate or our divisiveness or our polarizing behavior towards people, that we say that we are a good and open and loving person until you don't agree with what I say. And I feel like, you know, today I was just on a call with somebody, and I was talking about, like, I do recall, you know, my father just having this incredible capacity to sit with all of it and go, "Oh, I hadn't heard that view before. I hadn't thought about that before. Thanks for sharing me, you know, sharing that. I can see that could be possible too. Okay, he was always in this place of holding space. That's not to say that he didn't get ratty about the trams in Edinburgh, but don't get me started on that. But, you know, when you have the capacity to see that violent, angry person can also exist within you, then you can start healing and shifting and moving things for humanity. But, you know, I just send love and trust that the old wise woman, their grandmothers, are going to anchor some new energy, because I think they've had enough. And you know what was interesting when I was watching, it was on a Channel 4, British Channel 4 YouTube recording. Everybody that was commenting down the side, it was so sending peace, love, you know, kindness, you know, my thoughts are with, you know, families on both sides. This must be horrendous. There was no hate speech on those comments. There was no hate speech at all. I just don't buy into it. You know, I just think there are some people who are in charge who are just stirring up a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. Anyway, I might just pick a card for the situation in the Middle East, and what do we need to know about this? Oh, Mount Rupehu. It's so interesting because this is my card for gratitude, and you know, Mount Rupehu is an active volcano, and the people of Mount Rupehu just live every day like, well, we love it here and it's beautiful, and even though there's the potential of a volcano kicking off, we still love living here. And so to some degree, you know, the people that live there, it's such holy land. They live in this very, very holy space and magical and special place. And this is the unfortunate other side of the coin, is that, as you know, as holy as it is, it also holds this opposing energy that now and again needs to explode, a bit like an active volcano, that it just has to. It's really interesting. Now I'm kind of connecting to the land. I'm not connecting to the people. It's really interesting. So it's such holy land that it almost needs to, all the anger and the hate, it has to go somewhere. It can't hold it, which is why it then brings the attention of the whole world, because it needs that support. Oh God, I hadn't even seen that before. I hadn't even looked at it like that before. And the people that are living there, you know, it takes so much courage to live in a land like that, that's so potent and powerful, but equally so challenging and dangerous. When it kicks off, it kicks off. But people know that. It's not an easy place to live, but they're choosing to live there because it's so beautiful, and they have such a visceral and real experience of life because of that. I found that in South Africa, because of some of the you know, the leftover tensions from apartheid, that there was still just this feeling of tension from the they don't call them the projects, the shanty towns. I don't know, can't remember what they call them over there. Yeah, but you could feel it. You could feel the division between the population, certainly in some of the rural. I was in a more rural part when we were living there for a bit. And it had that same edginess, but yet when they came together, I remember this evening of them coming together, and it was so powerful. Like they like really live life to the full pelt. And I feel like that's, that's slightly similar. That's really unexpected. I didn't expect to have that card. Anyway, we are in a dark moon now, so if you're feeling a bit, that's why. We're also about to go into an eclipse. I don't know how long I've been on. I'm going to get off here. What do we need to know about this next 2-week cycle that we're about to go in? So new moon is on Sunday. What do we need to know about it? Gumby Rock, bit of ritual and ceremony. Okay. Let's pull another card. Pliscarden Abbey. This feels quite contemplative. Uluru! Geez, this feels like very, very powerful initiatory energy around at the moment. Very sacred. Sacred, like these are all sacred sites, okay? Zaria, Dumbi Rock, sacred site for the northern Nigerian people. Pliscarden Abbey, sacred site. Benedictine monks, sacred. Uluru, sacred site. Like, Jesus. It feels like there's this very initiative. It feels initiatory around. It's funny because this card came up around the referendum as well. Like something is going to come up, be shifting, self-regulating in the land. I talked earlier about the land holding the law. There's going to be something. There's ceremony happening somewhere. I kind of feel here in Australia around this. It wouldn't surprise me if there's some ceremony going on around this. But this is a deeply internal process. Okay, it's Pliscarden Abbey is my card for just inner stillness, contemplative energy, quietude. It's like this is a very interior time. There's going to be something that activates something, and this is activating the sacred within us. And this is my card for sort of initiation and awakenings, and it feels like there's going to be just this huge sense of self. It feels like a clearer picture of who we are separate to everybody else. This Uluru is a monolith in the middle of the central desert. It's just in the middle of nowhere, and although there's Kachatutu, God, I hope I'm saying that right, and the Olgas, which are sort of nearby, they're good sort of 45 minutes away. It just sits on its own, and I feel like there's this. So is Dumbi Rock. It's like, God, it's just this is time to, ultimately we come into life on our own and we leave on our own, and this is about getting to know ourselves better, to establish some sacred it's like historically, some of our spiritual practices have been very transactional. If I pray to you, you're going to look after me. If I do this little ceremony and all the rest of it, you're going to protect me and all the rest of it. This feels very different. This feels very like this, just knowing, it's a belief. You don't need to be doing anything. It's just like this inner knowing that you are part of something so much bigger, that you are a sacred and, you know, a magnificent being, and that you are going through this incredible kind of awakening, shifting, initiatory kind of, I feel like, because I think there's an eclipse at the end of the month as well, as far as I know, that this is just going to be a period of maybe just stepping back and just really taking some time to be still. This is not a time to be out partying. It feels like it wants to be much more of an interior process. It's like you're Teresa of Avila and the interior castle. You're opening the doors of your interior castle and you're saying, who's in here? Who's in here? I want to meet you all. That's what it feels like. And that experience is going to just shift how you think of yourself and how you connect with everything around you. It's huge. This feels really huge. Huge next cycle. Huge next cycle, which makes sense because we've been shedding the skins in this first cycle. You know, we've been really sort of like, oh, get rid of all that. No, I don't need that. This is now, we're powering up. We are powering up into our own sense of self now, from our own interior castle. That's what we're doing. We're literally doing the work in our own interior castle. All right, that's all I've got. If you've got any questions about this reading, let me know. Any thoughts, any comments? Post them below. What do you think about the referendum? What do you think about what's going on in the Middle East? What do you think about these cards? Anyway, sending you lots of love. I'm a bit tired today. I woke up in the middle of the night. I haven't been doing that for ages. So after I've been balanced, my body can always take a wee bit of time to metabolize my shifts. Anyway, sending you so much love. Take good care, and I'll see you all very soon.